Yes, my name's Luke, and I'm honored to have first-time guest Kenyon Moore on the show. Kenyon, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much. I'm happy to be here.
I should say undefeated 2-0 amateur prospect, Kenyon. It's wonderful having you on the show. You are going to be making the trip down from Connecticut to Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for Brawl in the Burgh 10 247 Fighting Championships. You're taking on Evan DeLong February 5th. What's in your mind coming a month away from February 5th?
Just do what I need to prepare, get my weight down, stay vigilant in my training, and bring the best I can that day. That's about it.
Well, now I mentioned you're making the trip in from Connecticut. You are currently training at the gym that is owned, run, and main coach by, which is crazy to say and exciting to say, UFC light heavyweight champion, showing that age is yet a number. Glover Teixeira, what's it been like for you as a member of that team to see him get that incredible win and become the champ?
It's super exciting. It's like a fairy tale almost. Like I've been at the gym for probably a little over 4 years now. And, been here for some ups and some downs, and it's just incredible to be a part of it and to watch him succeed and achieve his dreams. And I'm just, it's like awestruck, I guess is a good explanation of how I feel about it.
Well said there. And congratulations, obviously, to your coach and the whole team. The fact that there you are as an amateur fighter training with literally the best that the UFC has to offer. What brought you into MMA 4 years ago? You mentioned training at the gym 4 years ago. You're 2-0. You're on your way up as an amateur. What got you into MMA, and what has it been like so far?
Yeah, so I played ice hockey in high school. I didn't do any combat sports, but I liked the aggressiveness of ice hockey and like the feeling that it gave me while I was playing. And after high school, I couldn't find anything that matched that until one of the buddies that I actually played with got me to start doing jiu-jitsu. And that was probably like 6 years ago. And that kind of just snowballed into me doing striking and then kind of putting it together and deciding that I wanted to try, competing. And eventually I found my home here at Teixeira MMA and decided to take it more seriously and devote my life to it up until now and moving forwards.
I mean, that's breathtaking to hear you say that also directly, going from ice hockey to MMA. You said that your first transition out of ice hockey was jiu-jitsu. Was that what you got into first? And what was that like going from, it is aggressive. I mean, some people make jiu-jitsu to sound like it's super gentle. I mean, there's a lot of aggression in jiu-jitsu, but it's not raw. It's not cross-checking somebody. It's much more cerebral. So what was that like, making that adjustment from, I would think ice hockey into boxing or kickboxing would be a little bit more linear. So what was it like stepping into BJJ right off of ice hockey?
It was extremely humbling, I'd have to say. Like prior to that, I'd been doing like a lot of weightlifting. I thought I was like this big, strong guy that could fight. And then I was having like 145-pound like high school kids tap me out. They were like purple belts. And so I quickly learned that, like you said, it's not really brute force and super aggressive. It's like you have to learn to control positions and go for submissions. It's not just a brute strength. So it took me a long time to learn how to train and also like just acquire the fortitude to not get submitted all the time by these guys that were higher belts, but a lot smaller or faster, more agile. So it was humbling for sure.
And staying with that humility and kind of what BJJ teaches you, what was the first, I'm going to ask you a double part question. What was the first kind of escape you learned, whether it was from rear naked choke or a triangle escape, that you were like, oh my goodness, I can actually put a tool in my mind and use it? And what was your first submission that you used that you were like, I've got this now? Because there's usually a light bulb that starts early in BJJ, even if it's something pretty basic.
Yeah, so I guess I would say like for a while I was just like trying to Hulk out of stuff, like squeeze someone and roll out of mount or something like that. And like probably the first time I developed like a technique to the point where I felt like I was confident in it was probably just like scrambling out of side control, where you create the space, you get the underhook, and you come up to the single leg. That was probably like the first escape that I learned. And the first submission that I felt like somewhat confident in is when I first started training. I practiced triangles a lot. So I hit a triangle the first time, like going with someone that was like an adequate size, and I was like, damn, I actually kind of know something now, and so I've stuck with that.
Well, thanks for sharing those. I think that's what is kind of rewarding about BJJ, even outside of competing. It's just the scrambles, whether it's the sweeps, a pass, in your case, the triangle submission. For a lot of people, it's rear naked choke. It's kind of like the basic submission. But when somebody kind of learns to lock it on, or in your case, be able to throw it up and do it well, it's just exciting to see that. What were those first? I mean, you've had 2 fights. What has it been like for you going from training to competing? I see that you say Naga on your shirt. Did you do that before you got into MMA? Kind of what was the actual MMA like compared to the jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, so I mean, like I said, I didn't do any combat sports in high school, so I kind of started all of it at the same time. Pretty much, I just happened to start jiu-jitsu a few months before I did striking. So I definitely wanted to get my toes wet as far as like one-on-one competition goes. So Naga was somewhere that I started, just kind of like starting as a very novice beginner level and getting used to like, dealing with the nerves before competition and how to, control my energy expenditure and stuff like that, without having to go get banged up, and cut all the time if I'm getting punched. So I started off with Nagas, and then I decided that I was ready to go into like a higher level of competition, or at least like add striking in,
Certainly, absolutely. And at 2-0, even though it's only been 2 fights, obviously things have been going your way. How much can you hear your corners? Because that's something that you probably didn't have a lot in hockey. Because from what I know about hockey, the coaching is done as the line shift. Is that right? They do coaching on the line change. And so what was it like getting coaching? Well, tell me about hockey, because I don't know a ton, but what was it like with the coaching strategy and the coaching style? Because I would assume there was quite a bit different.
Yeah, so I mean, for hockey, ideally you have like a first, second, and third line, and you switch off between minutes. And then I play defense actually, but it's kind of the same thing. However, like my hockey team came from like there was only about like 9 guys on the team, so we kind of just switched whenever we needed a break. There wasn't that much structure to it. But so you didn't hear much from the bench. Generally, the coach would talk to you when you got off the ice and give you tips about what you need to improve on, or like start anticipating where your teammates are going to be putting the puck and stuff like that. But so transitioning over to the MMA side is really, I think it just takes time to like have your coach's voice ingrained in your mind. And like I like when I'm in the front door, like there's the gym here is pretty like it's a big stretch, so like, but I can hear my coach say my name at one end of the gym to the other, no matter what's going on, pretty much, and like I hyper focus on it when I'm in the ring, because you kind of shut everything else out and you wait for that familiar voice to enter in your head. It's like a secondary, like that little voice that tells you not to do something, like your conscience. It's like a second one of those. I feel like,
Well, it makes a lot of sense. I think that dialing in and making a big environment small is very important. Whether it's shooting a puck or in your case defending, making it just what's in front of you. Same thing for MMA. You're coming into some enemy territory here. You're taking on a guy that is still young in MMA, but is training out of the Mat Factory, which is for Pittsburgh, a big gym, produces a lot of great talent. And he comes from a pretty big wrestling background. You come from a hockey background. So how much do you kind of trust in your wrestling defense to take on a guy with the wrestling know-how of really a lot of people from Pennsylvania? It's kind of known to be a wrestling state, but Evan DeLong is kind of like one of those guys. So kind of what was your take in coming in and taking and saying yes to this fight?
So really I'm at a point where like I'm pretty open to fighting anybody. I would say I'm pretty well-rounded. I'm not like like I said, I don't have any combat sport experience after like during high school. So I'm not like a great wrestler. I'm not a great striker. I'm not a great ground guy. I'm just like a combination of all three. There's a lot of great wrestlers at this gym, amateur and pro. So like my takedown defense is probably, I feel like it's pretty high level, and more so than just the defense is like we train to make people pay for taking sloppy shots, so, this guy better know how to put his combinations to shots together. Otherwise he's going to get stuffed and he's going to get, he's not going to be happy.
Well, I think that makes a lot of sense. And I just quoted GSP. I quote GSP way too much. He's kind of like my favorite fighter of all times, but GSP never wrestled in high school. George St. Pierre, one of the best percentage takedown guys in the UFC, because what he realized is learning wrestling for MMA is different than if you learned wrestling from when you were 4 and 5. And in some ways, the 4 and 5-year-olds like the DC Cormiers, it's great, but they have to unlearn certain things that don't work in MMA. Whereas you, training with great wrestlers, training with striking, training with jiu-jitsu right off the bat, there's certain takedowns that you're just not going to do once you know what jiu-jitsu can do to you and things like that. So it is kind of exciting that you've learned it right from as it applies to MMA, which is really great. Do you know, I'm assuming your fight in the state of Pennsylvania has to be novice rules, because Pennsylvania has 3 levels of rules: pro, which we all know what they are, advanced, amateur, and novice. And so have you been fighting with ground and pound, and are you aware that there's no ground and pound in this coming fight? Kind of like, how much do the rules change your strategy? You don't have to tell me all specifics, but there's no strikes to the face above the collarbone and below for strikes.
Yeah, I'm aware of that. I've had a fight scheduled with 247 before that fell through. So I'm aware of the rules, and I'm not really, like, it's a great promotion. I think they put on a great show. I know it's not their fault, but like, I am not happy about the Pennsylvania rules. One, because like in this particular case, like this guy is probably going to try and shoot on me and hold me down. And if he's not creating space by trying to land punches to my head, it's going to make it more difficult for me to stand up, because I won't have that space. He's just going to hold me and get control time. The other rule that I'm not a fan of is like there's no head kicks. So like this guy can pretty much like fight with his hands down if he wanted to from a certain distance. But it is what it is. I'm going to come in there and get some experience. But the rules are what they are. I don't know. But yeah, I fought. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
My previous 2 fights were in Massachusetts, and they allowed ground and pound and head kicks, even though it didn't make it that far. But it is more attractive to me. And there's also they're 3-minute rounds, not 2-minute rounds. But right now it's just about getting experience. And it is what it is.
Well, I appreciate your honesty and the fact that you have given a lot of thought to it. I think shows that you're a fighter that takes this seriously. I asked that question because I'm one of the commentators for 247, and I'm constantly finding myself explaining, as a former coach, that I had to figure out that not all fighting's the same. And I used to coach out in Philly, where New York was different, New Jersey was different, Delaware was different. All the states, were different. You kind of are in that Northeast as well, and so I learned the hard way that rules are different, length of times are different, the whole thing. So that's why I asked that question. Now, in case you don't know this, and maybe you already do, in the state of Pennsylvania, once you have a 2-1 record or a 3-0 record, you have to have 3 fights. Then your advanced amateur, shin guards go away. Head kicks are still not allowed, so no luck there. Still no head kicks, still no elbows, but you're allowed what they call closed fists. So no elbows, but you're allowed ground and pound with closed fists. As well as heel hooks and other type of leg attacks. But the big visual change for advanced amateurs is that it's 3-minute rounds, kind of like what you were talking about, and punching on the ground to a grounded opponent is allowed, but no knees, obviously, to the face. I think that one stays outlawed until pro, and no elbows, but and no head kick. So it's really just ground and pound. But I did want to let you know that hopefully in the future you're able to make your trip back down to Pittsburgh and can fight at advanced amateur rules. That's one difference that Pennsylvania has. But I appreciate you taking that question so seriously, because it does make sense. It makes perfect sense that it's not necessarily a rule set that benefits you. So let's kind of talk about, as we sort of wrap up, let's talk about the fact that you had both wins, first round stoppage. What was, if you could, what was the finishing sequence in the first fight and the second fight from your perspective? What did you see? What did you lock on? Kind of like, how did those two finishing sequences go?
So my first fight, I was expecting the guy, he was a, supposedly like just won like IBJJF Worlds Purple Belt Master Division like a few months before the fight. So I was expecting like overhand right to a shot and bring it right to grappling. But instead he started throwing like these weird leg kicks, and he threw two of them. And I decided if he threw it again, I'm going to like try and catch the leg and just throw my right hand. And that's exactly what happened. He threw another kick. I like half caught it and then just hit him with the right hand, and he dropped. That was a quick finish. It was 28 seconds. Yeah. He wasn't really ready, but
no, I was gonna say that's something like that's when I was training, when I was teaching kickboxing, that's literally the first thing I taught. It was either the catch or the high block step, like you step with the front, block with the front and then step through. Obviously, a lot of people make the mistake of catching or blocking and stepping back. Clearly, you didn't make that mistake. And that's where a lot of training partners, they kind of are easy on people. And I think when people are learning to throw low kicks, they have to realize that they can slide up that leg very quickly, because you're touching them, they can kind of attack. And most people think, oh, if I leg kick them, they're going to step backwards. Well, no, actually the opposite's probably more true. Exactly. Yeah. So that was your first one. And I've seen a decent number of good level BJJ guys get into MMA and just assume that it's 1995, like the Gracies took over, and that they can, no, seriously, they just assume that they can just get in there and make it. And it hasn't been that way since about 1997, as far as that goes. But what was your second? What was the ending finish for your second?
The ending finish for the second, it was I actually came in with another overhand right and then left uppercut and then overhand right. So it was like a 3-punch combo, and that kind of put him on his knees. And I thought the ref was going to stop it at that point, but the ref didn't stop it. And he kind of like tried gathering himself to stand back up. And then I like just hit him with a barrage of uppercuts when he was like kneeled down against the fence, covering up. So like a barrage of uppercuts, and then the ref stopped it. And that was like a minute 47 into the first round, something like that.
Well, the barrage of uppercuts when he's on the ground does play into the rule set we were just talking about. And something that I think does tie in is knowing to play the game smart, and if you knock somebody down, you back off and make the ref stand back up. It's almost like that boxing game, as opposed to jumping in and getting held down. That's what you got to kind of learn about. But kind of a weird question, but I've been a coach, and physiologically, did you feel with both of those fights going so short, did you feel kind of really still amped after the fight, like you almost hadn't gotten the energy out? Because I know there's a difference between fighting 9 minutes and kind of feeling like I'm done, and fighting 28 seconds and a minute and 48 and just kind of feeling almost like it didn't happen, like it just wasn't enough. Did you feel that?
Yeah, 100%. I felt like cheated almost. I was like, dude, like, I mean, I go through camp here, like pros go through camp here, like nothing's different other than like, that I haven't turned pro yet really. And so like, this is some serious stuff we go through. So to go through like the camp and diet down and then just get in there and have it be over so quick, I'm like, man, I need a hard fight. And that's what I told my coach afterwards. I was like, it's time I need a hard fight. We need to like push the pace here a little bit. And that's what I'm hoping is going to happen February 5th. So I definitely did. I felt cheated. And like I was still in fight mode after my hand was raised.
Yeah, I figured, because I've been in there. I interview all the winners for 247, which is really a great honor to get in there. And I can kind of feel the energy when it's been a long, tough fight. There's more of a relaxation, and people are just kind of like, oh, this is great. And then if it's a quick finish, they're kind of still geared up. Well, I appreciate you taking time out. Have a great training session tonight, and can't wait to see you in action. 247 Fighting Championships Brawl in the Burgh 10, February 5th. For everybody watching this, get tickets from the gym, from Teixeira's gym, or from Kenyon Moore directly. Support them and buy the pay-per-view. If you're not making the drive-in, buy the pay-per-view for 247, 247fighting.com. Thanks so much, Kenyon. Can't wait to see you February 5th.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You got it. Have a good one.